Well, good morning all, and it is my privilege to call this meeting to order of Huron County Council. I would like to indicate at the outset that council meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the public record. I would like to welcome all members of County Council to our meeting today, to all of our senior management team that will provide us facts and information so we can make decisions in the best interest of the corporation of the County of Huron and our 61,000 residents. Welcome to all guests that are in attendance with us this morning, members of the public and the media. At the outset, I would like to recognize that this week we are celebrating National Nurses Week. And in doing so, we're honoring all the nurses across the county and beyond who go above and beyond to keep us safe. And that's no small task. A special thanks to all of our nurses at our homes for the aged, Huron View and Huron Lee. I don't have to emphasize enough how important that nurses are and the essential medical care that they provide for all of us. Their empathy and guidance see us through both the routine and the unexpected with grace and determination. Please join me all in celebrating and thanking all of our nurses that are in our lives during National Nurses Week. Let's show our appreciation to all of the nurses. Thank you. As far as Warden's comments, I have attended a few functions on behalf of Huron County Council, and one was the OGRA convention that other members of County Council were at. I was particularly impressed with the quality of the presentations and the content of the presentations. OGRA went above and beyond to put on a class event, and the presentations that were made, the breakout rooms that we could discuss topics that we're all dealing with. And I would really like to congratulate OGRA for the great work that they did. I had the privilege a week ago of attending the Huron County Road Supervisors Association meeting in Clinton, and that encompasses all the public works leads in our respective municipalities and of the county, and to collaborate and to exchange ideas on projects. It is very, very positive for all municipalities and the County of Huron. When we see that collaboration together, that's when we achieve great things. We also experienced the Canadian Armed Forces training event that was headquartered in Blythe this last weekend, and that was for both Huron and Bruce County. And I would sincerely like to thank everyone involved with that training event. Preparedness is so important. We do it on a municipal level, on a county level, and it was also done at a federal level with the totally intent of keeping our residents safe in a time of a disaster when it may happen. I would really like to thank Chad for the great work that he did on this, CAO Warwick, Jason Unan and his team with the OPP, and to all of the mayors that were there from both Huron and Bruce County to assist and be there to support them in this event. With that, we have the agenda that has been circulated in advance, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the approval of the agenda, and that would be Councillors Finch and P. Heffer. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Do any members of county have a declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof of any agenda item that we have today? Seeing none, we have 3 sets of minutes, being our special council session of our bus tour, the April 17th Council Day 2 minutes, and the April 18th Cyber Security and AI and Municipal Government Information session. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the approval of all these 3 sets of minutes, and that is Councillor Becker and Anderson. Are there any questions on any of these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. It is indeed a privilege for me to welcome James Skoniak to be with us today. James is the Chief Development Officer and Executive Vice President at Bruce Power. James is a valued friend of Huron County, and we look forward to your presentation. Welcome, James.
Great. Thanks very much for having me, Mr. Warden, and happy Clerk's Day. I thought every day was happy Clerk's Day. Anyway, as always, appreciate the opportunity to have some valuable time here on your agenda. Prior to the meeting, I did circulate some slides, but you have a long meeting today, so I'm not going to do death by PowerPoint, but I'll take the slides as read. There were really a few items that I thought were important to update County Council on today. But maybe before I do that, there's two areas of thanks on behalf of Bruce Power that I want to share with Huron County Council. The first is, as you know, our site is not only the largest operating nuclear facility in the world, but is home currently to Canada's largest private sector infrastructure project. And so on a day like today, we will have anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 people working on the Bruce Power site, whether it's in operations or maintenance or construction. And a significant portion of those workers call Huron County home every single day. Our employees live throughout the entire southwestern Ontario region, but are primarily concentrated in Grey Bruce and Huron County. So the work that County Council does every single day, the municipalities, county staff, really leads to a high quality of life for our employees and their families in the community. So I wanted to thank you for that. I also wanted to thank you for your investment in Bruce Power. And what I mean by that is municipalities across the county of Huron, staff that are here at Huron County are payers and contributors into the OMERS pension plan. So whether you knew it or not, you're an investor in Bruce Power. So 48.5 cents of every dollar that is invested in Bruce Power comes from OMERS pension plan. And OMERS represents 600,000 public service workers across Ontario. So for those of you that are in the OMERS pension plan, I have good news and bad news for you today. The good news is that you are an investor in Bruce Power. The bad news is that you are also an investor in the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, but I'll let OMERS explain the latter. The second area, just before I get into the Bruce Power update, I had the opportunity to meet with the warden and the CAO on your Gibbon Street project here in Goderich. I look forward to visiting that. And I have the opportunity to visit a lot of municipalities and a lot of counties in my travels, and certainly the leadership that Huron County Council has shown with what I think is a very large investment is very impressive and important. And I know the county is looking for partners in that, whether that be in the nuclear industry or elsewhere. And we're prepared to see what we can do to find those partnerships, because obviously the broader nuclear sector can certainly support this going forward in some way. No commitments today, but I did want to congratulate everybody on that. It's a very bold project, not easy to invest that kind of money, but it's the kind of project 10 to 15 years from now, people will look back and nobody will ever regret that you did it. That's easy for me to say. I'm not running for elected office. So the three main items that, as I mentioned earlier, I'll take the slides as read, but there's really three main items I wanted to leave with County Council today by way of an update, and happy to take any questions that there are. The first is that if you look at Ontario today, on a day like today, 85% of our electricity that is supplied in the province of Ontario comes from hydroelectric and nuclear power. 60 of that 85 is nuclear. And one of the challenges that we have in our nuclear generating fleet here in Ontario is much similar to actually the challenges that you have with infrastructure broadly, where my generation has had a very strong quality of life due to infrastructure that was built in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. And the challenge that we face is for many years, there hasn't been enough investment in that infrastructure, and it's reaching its end of life. And so that is really the case with our nuclear fleet here in Ontario, where these facilities were built in the 1970s and 80s, and we're undergoing right now a life extension program. It started in 2016. It'll run to 2033. That will sequentially go through all of our generating assets, renew them, modernize them, rebuild them so they can operate for another 40, 50, 60 years. And what is unique with our site is we really have eight reactors that generate power. But at any given time, we have a number of activities underway on that site. The province of Ontario is still requiring us to generate electricity while we are renewing our assets. So if you look at our 8 reactors across the Bruce Power site, 3 of them we have fully refurbished and they will operate for the next generation. And we're sequentially going through the remaining 5. That is, as I mentioned, one of Canada's largest infrastructure projects. And our 3rd refurbishment project was completed on budget and ahead of schedule. And the reason why that's important is because this is not going to be a one and done. This is a campaign and an effort that will go to 2033. But if we look ahead to 2033 from a Bruce Power site point of view, we will have that asset renewed till the 2060s and 2070s. So it can provide that reliable, affordable, clean electricity that the province needs. And with that comes investment, with that comes innovation, but with that also comes a number of challenges. And just like you've seen in many municipal projects and in your own communities, Bruce Power, we have some of the same challenges that you encounter every day. We have shortage of skilled trades, very, very difficult to find skilled trades. We have significant inflationary pressures that just like you see when you do procurement, we're a private sector company. We have a fixed price for our product. And so if there's inflationary pressures, we have to find a way to do what we need to find efficiencies, find ways of achieving that. So it's a program that is progressing well. It's a program that has a lot of political support, but it's a program that is not without its challenges. And I can't underestimate the importance of the continued political support for nuclear power, which is really at an all-time high in Ontario and Canada and frankly around the world. It's really the first area. The second area is a new focus for our company over the last 3 to 5 years, and that's in the production of medical isotopes. For those of you that may not be familiar with medical isotopes, think of medical isotopes as really another form of energy that is used in modern healthcare. So just like we have energy in the room here today where you flick a light switch and electricity powers a light bulb, a medical isotope is a form of energy that's used to sterilize medical equipment, diagnose or treat cancer. And we've made innovations at Bruce Power, first in the world to do this, where we're shifting from medical isotope production, which used to be in old research reactors, which is not as reliable because they're not commercial reactors, to make those isotopes now in commercial power reactors safely. And so we're now one of the world's largest producers of medical isotopes. Now, it will only be 1 to 2% of our business max, but it's an important attribute that we can provide. And so you'll see us, and Huron County has demonstrated leadership by participating a lot on this front. And the real opportunity here for Canada, not just our neck of the woods here in southwestern Ontario, is that for 50 years, Canada has been a world leader in the production of medical isotopes. We have unique assets here in Canada with our Canadian reactor design that other reactors can't produce isotopes like we can. And so there's a tremendous opportunity for Canada here over the course of the decades to come. If we can continue to produce these at the scale we do, we really become the international hub for life-saving medical isotopes and the entire ecosystem around that, cancer treatments, clinical trials, processing. And so it's a very exciting area of our operation, but it's also very meaningful. Unfortunately, 40% of people in this room will be diagnosed with cancer in your life. And you will undoubtedly need access potentially to medical isotopes. 100% of us will be impacted by cancer in our lives, whether it's our friends, our loved ones, our neighbors, our colleagues. And so this is not only an important strategic contribution we're making, but there's also a moral imperative to do it. And the final area, you would have heard a lot of commentary from the provincial and federal government about new reactors. As I noted, we have a multi-year refurbishment program underway. That's where our investment focus is now. But we've also been engaged with both levels of government on if there is a need for new reactors, what are the appropriate steps to take now? So just like good municipal planning, I would say, what is good municipal planning? It's when you go into a municipality before developers come knocking on your door and you've zoned pieces of property, commercial, residential, industrial. That's all we're doing right now with new build. We're going through a federal process to permit our site that we could construct up to 4 new reactors. We're going through that process. It's a $80 to $100 million investment. The federal and provincial governments are contributing to that because we don't have a commitment that anything is going to get built, but this is something that the government wants to see. So we're progressing through that permitting process. So down the road, as we get to the end of this renewal program, if we see the demand for electricity continue to grow, we're not starting from scratch. We've done that permitting, we've done that community engagement, and we've done that planning. And as you know, that one of the key attributes of successful infrastructure programs is get your permitting and regulatory approvals in place first, get your design complete before you put a shovel in the ground. And if you don't have those, that's what leads to future projects being wildly over budget and late. So those are really the three messages I wanted to leave with people. As I said, I'll take the slides as read, but I really do want to thank you for your public service and everything you do for our employees and community. And if there's time or questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you very much for that, James. Do any members of County Council have any questions or comments of James on his presentation to us this morning? Past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to say much the same thing, but really appreciate the fact that Bruce Power includes Huron County in the Tri-County area. I think that's a really positive relationship, and I know I've had family that's worked at Bruce Power, and certainly a lot of neighbors, and it's good paying jobs up there, and really helps out our economy, and keeps the wheels turning here as well. So really nice to be included. I've been to many meetings, as you know, and the fascinating technology that you have, and these isotopes, I think, are just the icing on the cake. I think that's a really positive story, and I'm glad to see Bruce Power going in that direction.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments of any members of County Council? And if not, James, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and congratulations for everything you're doing at Bruce Power. You are displaying leadership.
Thank you very much.
Not only for Canada, for around the world, in what you're not only doing with nuclear production of electricity, as you commented, and as past Warden Ginn said, the isotopes. You don't have to do that. You are to benefiting society. And for that, we thank you very, very much. And we look forward to our continued partnership with you.
Thank you. Have a great council meeting. Take care.
With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation by James Sconiak, the Chief Development Officer and Executive Vice President of Bruce Power for information purposes, and that is Councillor Bazinet and Alvin McClellan. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. We talk about the economy, and I think Mr. Sconiak is now going to visit Culbert's Bakery and contribute to the economy of Goderich. Do any councillors have any comments that they would like to make at this time under number 7? And I'll go first to past Warden McClellan. Glad to see your hand up first, past Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I also attended the OGRA conference, and I just I want to highlight a few things. Unfortunately, this session was not well attended. It was Sunday afternoon. It was one of the first sessions, and a lot of people may not have arrived, unfortunately. It was put on by Scott Butler of OGRA Executive and Nigel Bellchamber. And they talked about the whole deficit with infrastructure and everything going forward. And according to Scott, OGRA has had some good conversations with the province, and I really appreciated the direction because, sure, they're always asking for more money to be given to municipalities to cover these infrastructure costs, but they tried a different tactic, and he says it's got traction. And that is that they think they are convincing the province that for the loans, the infrastructure loans that we've taken out in the past, that going forward, that the province would not only supply the loans, but at a rate lower than the prime rate or lower than the rates are now. Now, I know staff have done the calculations here. I know they've done them at Huron East. And whether you used reserves or whether you borrowed the money, at the end of the day, it always worked out basically dollar for dollar, very, very close. If we can borrow those monies at less than the rates of what the province had been charging in the past, then it's actually a windfall. Technically, we're still fixing infrastructure that we're maybe not getting other assistance from, but it could be a very good management tool going forward from a financial standpoint. And I'm wondering if we would like to reach out to OGRA and see if there's benefit at this time, if they think they're making traction, that if there's letters of support from counties, municipalities, or whatever, that it would help kind of get us over that finish line. I think this was really important the way he was talking, and he was talking positively about it. We're not there yet, but I would ask that, is it appropriate to ask staff to reach out, have that conversation, and see if there's something we could do to help move the ball forward?
Thank you for that comment. I'll call on our CAO for your perspective on this, please.
So I'll just get some initial comments from the treasurer, and then I can speak to it from the CAO's perspective. Treasurer.
Mr. Bloomhagen, please.
Through yourself, Warden. Yeah, I definitely something that I would be very interested in exploring. That's first I've heard of this initiative moving forward, and I think anything that we can do that would benefit, our local ratepayers would be, definitely of maximum benefit, and we should look into it. So.
Thank you for that. CAO, please.
Yeah, so if we could get a mover and a seconder from County Council, we'd be happy to bring back a report for further information for County Council.
Okay, and that would be moved by past Warden McClellan, second by Councillor Finch. All in favor of this direction? And that is supported by Council. Thank you very much for raising that. Do you have an additional comment, please?
Or a few. One of the sessions I attended, it was called Navigating Climate Change. And the whole gist of it was basically forest coverage, tree coverage, things like that, and how important it was. And the fact that because of intensification, we're actually losing a lot of that. And they gave some good examples. And I looked around at some building developments after the fact and realized that they were right. And I hadn't thought about this in the past. I agree with the intensification. There's good merit to why we made the changes we did. But because we're making the lots smaller and people don't want smaller houses, we're allowing more lot coverage, but we're getting to the point where you actually can't put decent sized trees on the properties anymore. So the neighborhoods are being built. They still look nice when they're brand new, but you can't plant trees that are going to grow into big trees that you see in older established neighborhoods that really give the character to those neighborhoods. And I didn't know if that was something we'd ever taken into consideration. And I'm not asking for any information today, but it would be interesting to hear at some point what planning's thoughts are on something like that. In that same session near the end, it was kind of interesting because one of the gentlemen who apparently started on council in the late 70s, he stood up and he made a statement, and you could actually hear a silent, audible gasp from the room when he made it. But he said in the late 70s, whether it was from the government or advertisers or whatever, it was everybody believed in the same mantra, and the sales pitch back then was, save a tree, use plastic. And boy, have things ever changed now. I attended a session, and I think the warden was in this one too. I think I saw him in the room, and it was talking about strategies for hiring and retaining. The really interesting part was, I think it was someone from HR in Wellington, was it? Yeah. And then they had another lady there that was from a headhunting organization. That's what I call them. And I forget who the third person was, but the gist of it is that it doesn't matter whether you're in the municipal sector or the private sector, as Bruce Power even commented here. Companies just can't find the people they're looking for. And it's not even just frontline workers, it's anywhere up the scale. even the lady from the HR said one of the biggest things was that it used to be when companies asked for resumes, if your resume didn't hit at least 90% of everything that they were looking for, it never even got another consideration. It's not that way anymore. Over 70% of businesses out there, and I'm including municipal in the business title, are short employees somewhere along the line. And they say it's got to the point now that even if you have 50% of what they're looking for, you're making it to the short list. And that was a staggering number. And they said it's getting to the point where companies have unfortunately come to realize we need to hire somebody. And if we see some sort of glimmer of something that they can be trained down the road, we're just going to put the expense into them because we can't get the people we actually need to do the jobs. So that is a frightening statistic. Happy to share that. The one other session that I took notes on, I kind of got misled, and they do this from time to time. It was called Challenges and Innovations in Rural Transportation. And I know from municipal level, we all deal with the expenses of our side roads and the amount of money we put into them and what are our options, especially with bridges and everything else that go along with it. I was hoping that when I read this title that they had some sort of magic wand. Unfortunately, that's not what it was. And the entire gist of it at the end of the day was pave everything. That was their solution to how to fix your side road problems, which I don't think is a feasible thing. Although I was surprised they had examples of a couple of municipalities, and one of them I think had over 700 kilometers of gravel roads, and it wasn't an upper tier, it was a lower tier. And their choice had been, I think it was over a 4-year period, they were going to pave everything. They had crunched the numbers and they felt it was going to work for them. I haven't seen any numbers that worked like that, but anyways, that's what they had. But that's my report from OGRA, sir.
Thank you very much for that, Past Warden McClellan. And to follow up on your comment about attraction and retention of staff, one of the main take-homes in that session was culture and how important the culture is. And a person will leave an organization because of the culture, and they will go to an organization because of the culture. And we're very, very fortunate in Huron County with the leadership of our CAO through our senior management team to all of our staff and to County Council, the culture that we have. And it is something that is earned and is so vitally important to maintain. And that was, I think you'll agree, a real take home of that session. Any other comments from any members of County Council that they would like to contribute at this time? If not, I would also like to add at the AOR's meeting that was held at the time of OGRA, Steve Lunn was recognized for his years of service and his contribution, and that absolutely made Huron County proud. And as Past Warden McClellan commented, OGRA also presented Nigel Chamber with an achievement award for his contribution that he has made to the municipal sector, and to have these individuals attached to Huron County made us all very, very proud. With that, is there anything else? And if not, I would like to move to the consent agenda that would encompass items 8.1 through 8.8. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull from that? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to approve items 8.1 through 8.8 with actions as noted. Councillor Finch and Goderich, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. It is a privilege under number 9 for me to welcome and introduce our 2 students that are with us this morning that are joined in Huron County as summer students in the Planning and Development Department. First, I would like to recognize Marissa Nesbitt. Marissa is our planning student. She lives in Blythe, is a graduate of Central Huron Secondary School. Marissa currently attends Wilfrid Laurier University and majors in political science. Welcome to Huron County, and let's show our appreciation and welcome. Our second summer student is Sam Orr. Sam is our forestry and environment student. Sam lives in Stratford and is taking a forest science program at the University of British Columbia. A welcome also to you, Sam. Attracting summer students is so important to Huron County because it not only provides an experience, you will sense the culture that we have in Huron County, and we would certainly hope that this would trigger an interest in the municipal sector as you enter your careers of employment. So welcome, and please enjoy the experience this summer with our tremendous staff. Under 9.1, it is consent file C11-2024, that of Progressional Holdings, and it is a privilege for me to invite Shay Stahl to present to Huron County Council on this file this morning. Welcome, Shay.
Thank you, Warden. Just give me a second. I'll put my presentation up here.
No worries. And just for the awareness of the public, we will be entering a public meeting for any comments on this following Shay's presentation to us.
All right, if everyone can see that, okay. So this is two applications. Oh, there we go. So two applications considered concurrently today, C11 and C12. This applies to 434 to 440 Turnberry Street in Brussels. And the application is considered disputed today due to neighbor comments and concerns received. So here's an aerial of the subject property. The left image is looking more broadly at the town of Brussels, and the right image shows the property, subject property in blue. So we're located downtown Brussels off Turnberry Street, and the lands proposed to be severed are immediately adjacent to the Brussels Four Winds barn, and front on both Turnberry Street and Elizabeth Street. So the image here shows the proposed severed and retained lands associated with each severance. The severed parcels are shown in green and blue, and the retained parcels are shown in orange and red. The severed parcels are currently vacant, used as parking, and the retained parcels both contain a commercial building. So the purpose of the applications today are to create a new lot that'll be used for parking for the Four Winds event barn. There are two PIN numbers that apply to the subject land, so that's why two separate applications are required. The severed parcels from the two applications are proposed to merge into one parcel, creating one new lot. And here. So this sketch here shows the final result and parking lot plan after the two severed parcels merge. The new lot will be approximately 1,300 square meters of vacant land used as an existing parking area. And the new lot will be used as parking for the Four Winds event barn for their events. The two retained parcels will maintain adequate parking spaces required for the commercial buildings and tenants of these buildings. And the parking lot plan also contemplates adequate space and access for emergency vehicles and loading spaces to the commercial buildings. So part of the application also proposes to create several easements over the severed lands for access and parking to the rear of the retained buildings. An access easement is also proposed for each of the neighboring lots immediately north and south. So that's lot 9 and 10 on this sketch here. And the access easement is shown as a yellow outline on that sketch here. A blanket easement is also contemplated for municipal services under the subject lands and is proposed in favor of the municipality, as well as a blanket easement for stormwater drainage over the severed lands in favor of the retained lots. These easements are all included as a condition of the consent approval. So it's also worth noting here that there's a 4-foot wide strip of undeeded land with multiple historic ownerships that separates the severed lot from the Four Winds lands. So that's outlined in red on that aerial photo there. The applicant's lawyers are working to address this and will eventually acquire title to this strip. Until that time, the severed parcel is proposed to be tied to the Four Winds lands through a site-specific site plan agreement, which would bind the two properties until they can be merged into one parcel. So in review of the policies, the property is designated core commercial and zoned core commercial in the Huron East official plan and zoning bylaw. A parking lot, either as a main use or accessory use, is permitted within this zone. And the proposed severance is required to address the parking requirements of the Four Winds facility and to help identify the appropriate parking spaces for guests and eliminate confusion during events held at the barn. A site plan agreement will also be established for the severed parcel to address signage, drainage, and surfacing of the parking lot and to tie the severed lots to the Four Winds lot. So just a few photos of the subject lands here. So these photos are facing north towards the Four Winds barn, show the proposed severed lot and the current surfacing condition of the lot. It's proposed that the severed lot will remain gravel grade for the time being. However, the owners plan to eventually pave the whole lot to better delineate parking spaces and maintain more clear aisles for access. And just a couple photos showing the proposed retained lands, including the rear of the existing commercial buildings. So as for comments received, Huron East staff have no concern with the proposal and just noted the requirement for a site plan agreement. Festival Hydro also noted no concerns, but want to ensure adequate separation between hydro poles and the entrances for the new lot. A neighboring landowner, Mrs. Kenny, submitted comments concerned over the state of the commercial buildings being retained, as well as concerns regarding how the parking spaces on her own lot will be addressed or will be maintained. So I spoke with the neighbor and noted that the designated parking can be addressed as part of the site plan through signage and discussed the owner's plans for the buildings moving forward. She also noted that there is a legal matter between herself and the owners of the subject lands over property damage, trespassing, and nuisance. It's the planning department's opinion that this is a separate legal matter that is being dealt with independently of these applications and does not have an implication on the proposed severances. I would also note that this is the first step in addressing parking issues and concerns experienced with events held at the Four Winds barn. The owners have expressed a willingness to work with the planning department and municipality to resolve these issues as best as possible and create a space that best serves the public and creates a welcoming environment for everyone. So Huron East Council recommended approval at their April 16th meeting, and the applications are consistent with the PPS, conform to the Huron County official plan and Huron East official plan, and comply with the Huron East zoning bylaw. Therefore, the applications are recommended for approval with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shay, for that presentation to us this morning. As indicated at the outset, we are now entering the public portion of our meeting where the public are invited to make any comments that they would choose to. Please use the raised hand function if you're joining us virtually, and our clerk will bring you into the meeting. And I'm first going to ask if anyone would like to speak in opposition to this application at this time.
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition of this application at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application at this time?
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor of this application at this time.
Thank you. Would the applicant care to make any comments at this time?
I do see I have two of the applicants in attendance. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand. They're attending virtually. I'll just give you a couple seconds for that. No one wishes to, oh, just hold on for a second. I'm going to send you an invitation. I need you to accept it, and then you will be coming into the meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. And please identify yourself and make your comments at this time, if you would, please.
Yes, I'm Caleb Boskamp. Yes, I think this would be a good step forward to making sure parking is suitable for Four Winds, and it allows for still access for commercial trucks if they need to back in. So it addresses all my concerns, and I think is a good step forward for the property as a whole.
Thank you very much for that. Is there anyone else, clerk, that would care to speak in favor at this time that you're aware of?
Tracy, I'm just going to send you an invite as well. If you just accept, and we'll move you into the meeting as well. Tracy, I see that you're in the meeting at this time. If you are able to turn your video on and you can speak as well.
Welcome, and please identify yourself and provide your comments. Good morning.
Good morning. It's Tracy Hertel, owner of Four Winds Barn. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. My only comment on this is it would be really nice to have this proceed moving forward. We would really like to get the parking lot in the area cleaned up, and that would allow us to make sure that it's appropriate parking. I think it would help that we could mark the parking spaces. It would just make the area look nicer for sure. It's kind of a grow now, so we'd really like to move forward with this and tidy it up and make sure it's appropriate parking with marked spaces and more suitable for our attendants that are attending the Four Winds Barn. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Clerk, is there anyone else that would like to make any comments at this time that you're aware of, please?
I see no one else that wishes to speak at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Just before I open it up to all members of County Council, I would like to call on Past Warden McClellan for any comments from Huron East on this application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you. Huron East Council is certainly in favor of this, and we recognize the fact that if this goes ahead and they pave and properly mark the parking lot, it will solve a lot of issues going forward. For anybody that's attended the Four Winds, the unfortunate part is depending on where the first few people park, it can be quite a jumbled mess, and you're maybe not utilizing the space as well as you could. We have too many vehicles parking on the side street, and hopefully if this gets done, it gets marked out properly, then we won't have to have people parking on the side street. And I think at the end of the day, it will be better for everybody in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. And at this time, I'll open it up to all members of County Council to make any comments or ask any questions of Shay on this application. Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just have one question, and it's about the orphaned strip of land. Based on what I've read and what you've said, there is going to be a claim for possessory title, I'm assuming, going forward. And you've given two examples of what we're going to do while that's taking place and what will happen after that's achieved. I guess my question is, possessory title is not always something that is a sure thing that you can achieve. Is the plan going forward, if that strip of land is never transferred, to continue with the site plan agreement binding the two properties together, as you've indicated? Like, that could be a permanent solution as well?
Thanks for the question. Shay, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I believe if that opportunity doesn't pan out as we would hope, we still have the site plan that will bind the two properties together. The site plan would be registered on title, so that would effectively bind them together in perpetuity. I don't know, the solicitor for the applicant is here as well. I don't know if she would like to speak to the undeeded strip a little bit, just to clarify that.
Absolutely. Please go to the podium. Councillor Finch will assist with turning on the microphone and identify yourself and your comments on this issue, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leanne McDonald. I'm from the law firm Monty, Thritzma, Phillips in Stratford, and we are the agent for the applicant and the solicitors for the purchaser of the severed lands in this application. And yes, we are in the process of acquiring a possessory title claim for our clients on that 4.5-foot strip of land between the two parcels. And yes, we understand that possessory title isn't always guaranteed. We're very confident that we will be able to achieve possessory title. The last known owner on title of the lands was registered in 1865, and there have been no claims on title to that parcel since. And we're in the process of contacting predecessors in title to sign affidavits stating that, they had no claims on the land during their ownership of the adjacent parcel. And even if we are unsuccessful in obtaining those affidavits, we will be able to, within, I believe it's just under a year and a half, our clients, the Brussels Four Winds Barn, will have owned the lands for the 10 years prior to, I guess the property is still in registry, but they will have owned their lands for a 10-year period, which will allow them to make the claim. And we're confident that, judge and court would be happy to see that that land is finally being converted and used by the adjacent landowners.
Thank you very much for your comments, Dan. You're good with that, Councillor Noel? Perfect. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from any members of County Council? And if not, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to approve the recommendation of Shay Stahl, our planner, and consent application C11 2024 and C12 2024 by the applicants Four Winds Inc., Brussels Four Winds Inc., with approved conditions. And that is Councillor Finch and past Warden Ginn. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much for that, Shay. What effect of public and agency comments would you recommend to us, Shay, on this application, please?
Thank you, Warden. Yes, I'm recommending 3B and 5A.
It has been recommended that the effect of public and agency comments on this decision be 3B and 5A. Do I have a mover and a seconder? It is Councillor Harding, seconded by Councillor Bazinet. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much again, Shay. 9.2 is a consent application C106-2022 of Angela McCool, the applicant. And I would invite Craig Metzger to present to Huron County Council on this file at this time. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you, Warden McNeil. While I'm pulling up my presentation, just some background information. The applicant did intend to attend today. Unfortunately, plans have changed and she's unable to make it. So she's not in attendance and does send her regrets. The file is a 2022 file, so it has been open for a while. And that's due to the comments that were received as a result of the first circulation of the application. Those comments were with respect to drainage, potential drainage issues on the property. And as a result, the applicant has chosen to prepare a lot grading and drainage plan to address those concerns. That took a considerable period of time. It was completed by an Ontario land surveyor, and they were very busy. So it did take some time and it didn't come back and actually get finalized till earlier this year. So that's why it's been so long. The application itself is an infill application for a residential lot within Clinton. It's at 40 Joseph Street, which is the corner of Joseph and Isaac streets in Clinton. Here's the air photo showing the property. The area outlined in blue are the retained lands. The red area is the vacant land at the back of the existing lot, and that's the part to be severed as a new residential building lot fronting on Isaac Street. I mentioned the lot grading and drainage sketch that was prepared. This is the sketch that was provided. It was reviewed by the municipality of Central Huron's municipal engineer, so there was a peer review completed and found to be acceptable. It does involve two swales being placed on the property, one along the northern boundary of the severed lands. The general drainage is from the top to the bottom here, so from north to south. And then further south, it's actually south to north. So this is the low point on the block. That's why there was the concern about the drainage. So the swale would be along the north to catch any of the land coming or any of the water from the retained parcel and bringing it towards Isaac Street to be dealt with appropriately. And then at the southern boundary, another swale to make sure that none of the water from this property goes onto the neighboring property, lot 10. And there's a berm, which would also bring water towards Isaac Street. Isaac Street was reconstructed recently. It was completed in 2023. As part of that reconstruction, there was a municipal stormwater connection placed at the front of what will be the severed parcel. So the drainage can actually drain directly into the stormwater management system and be handled appropriately from there. This is a picture looking on Isaac Street towards, this is the retained parcel, the house on the retained. I would draw your attention to the right side of the photo. So this is Joseph Street. So this is Isaac. The severed parcel is down in this area. The important piece to note is that there is that slope from Joseph going as you go down Isaac Street, and then it actually starts coming back up when you get further on Isaac. So this is the low point, as I mentioned, and the reason for the drainage concerns. This is going a little farther down Isaac Street and looking back. This is the corner of the severed parcel, the southerly portion, and then the northerly portion is up at this area, kind of behind the hydro pole. So you can see how it does kind of slope a bit towards the subject lands, even when you're further south on Isaac. This particular photo identifies where the boundary between the severed parcel, which is the piece on the right, and the retained parcel, the piece on the left. It's a little difficult to see what the slope is, but if you compare the grades at the house on the retained and the grade on the severed parcel, you can see there is a significant fall between those two, and that's why there will be the swale put at this point to bring that water forward towards the street. And finally, this is a photo of the entire severed parcel. You can see this would be the southern boundary, and this would be the northern boundary as well. I mentioned there were comments received. There was comments from 4 people, 5 letters. One person provided comments in the initial circulation and then provided comments again after the second circulation. Those comments dealt with 5 issues. First, that the severed lot size was too small if they were going to build a triplex or a quadruplex. There'd be inadequate parking, drainage being an issue. In this particular case, the lot is too small for a triplex and quadruplex, and that's why it's not being proposed to have such a structure. It's proposed to have a single detached dwelling, which is the same dwelling type that's found throughout this particular residential neighborhood. So that will have it fit in much better with the surrounding homes. Although it's a little smaller than the surrounding lots, it has a similar lot frontage to what the surrounding lots had. So if you're driving down the street, it would look like a similar lot to any of the others on the street. It's just a little shorter behind where the proposed house will be. Other concerns were with respect to loss of trees. Past Warden McClellan mentioned that in his comments earlier today. In this case, there is still room to the rear to place a tree if the owner so desires. And there would be room on the front for 1 tree. I don't think you could get more than that on because you'd have room for the driveway as well. Questions with drainage, those have been addressed through the peer-reviewed lot grading and drainage sketch. There were concerns about traffic safety issues with putting in a new driveway here and the slope on the streets. Central Huron's roads manager was aware of those comments. He's very familiar with the street as a result of the reconstruction that was just done. He does not share those concerns, but he did indicate that he would monitor the situation. If it's primarily related to speed, there is the opportunity at the intersection between Isaac and Joseph to actually have stop signs on Isaac, if that's the case, that they're just coming too fast down the street. He will monitor that and address it if it does actually turn out to be an issue. And then finally, there was a concern about construction impacts occurring just after the neighborhood had gone through the reconstruction of Isaac Street. Those were primarily in the first circulation, where the reconstruction of the street and the construction of the new home would be right after each other. Because of the length of time this file's been open and getting the sketch completed, there will actually have been no construction done in 2024. That was finished last year. They're not going to be able to build a new house this year by the time they meet all the conditions and get the new deed registered and the property sold. So there will be a period of time. And as you're well aware, construction is a limited window. They're going to build the house, and that will be it for construction for decades in terms of large construction like that, provided there's nothing unfortunate happens to the home, like a fire or anything like that. We did have comments from the Saul Bayfield Maitland Valley Source Protection Region notifying us that it is not subject to a prohibition or risk management plan. And then municipal staff had no objections after the lot grading and drainage sketch was peer reviewed. In terms of the provincial policy statement, Clinton is a fully serviced settlement area, and the PPS would see that as the focus for residential development. The policy statement does encourage intensification and the efficient use of land and resources. In this case, there is no extension of a municipal street that's already in place. There is existing sewage and water capacity, and there's stormwater management facilities as well. So they do not need to physically extend the services to this particular location. Your county plan has similar policies to the provincial policy statement. And within the plan, there is a 65% growth target for primary settlement areas. So that's not only is that to be a focus, we've actually put a goal around how much growth we would see in those areas. In this case, it's 65%. Central Huron's official plan has similar policies, goes in more detail. It does require that full services be available, which is the case. And lot sizes need to be appropriate. As I mentioned, this is a slightly smaller lot size, but it does have a similar frontage. And finally, the Planning Act has a number of items that you need to have regard to in making your decision. This application meets those in that it conforms to both official plans. The land is suitable for development. The application is not premature, and it is in the public interest, and therefore it meets all of those planning requirements. Recommended conditions, they're all the standard conditions you would see on a severance, with two exceptions. In this case, there is a recommendation for a development agreement. That's to make sure that that lot grading and drainage sketch is followed when the eventual house is constructed. And second, to make sure that the swale along the severed and retained parcels, that's the north parcel, that would get constructed before the deed is finalized and the parcel transferred. So we're not having the owner of the retained land putting their water on whoever will end up being the owner of the severed land. We would get that problem averted and not have it become an issue. So those two conditions are included in what otherwise are the standard conditions you would see. Now, with that, I'm recommending the application be approved with those conditions as listed.
Thank you very much, Craig, for your presentation to us this morning on this file. As indicated, this is, again, a public portion of our meeting where anyone is welcome to make any comments that they would care to. If you're joining us virtually, please use the raised hand function for our clerk to bring you into the meeting. And I'm going to ask, clerk, are you aware, is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this application at this time?
No one has indicated they wish to speak in opposition of this application at this time.
Thank you. Are you aware, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application at this time?
No one has indicated they wish to speak in favor of this application at this time.
Thank you. Would the applicant care to make any comments at this time?
The applicant is not in attendance today.
Perfect. I'm going to go to past Warden Ginn for any comments that you would care to share with your colleagues from Central Huron's perspective, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. Craig, could you pull up the aerial photograph again? Just dealing with the lot size issue. The one issue that we did have there was, of course, the drainage issue. And since we were reconstructing that street, we simply put in a storm water drain inlet right there. And I think that's solved the problems. But if you just go to the very bottom, you don't need to change anything, Craig. But if you look at the bottom right corner, you can see there are a lot that's no bigger than what the proposed one is. They're kind of all over the map there. We have streets that don't run parallel, so we've got a lot of odd shaped lots in that part of the town. And the frontage is, as Craig said, frontage is the same as the ones further south, the two lots below. So it's a little less backyard, but we have others in the area that are that size. So it meets our goals, and it is a form of intensification, what we've talked about a lot, you know. So council had no issues with this whatsoever.
Thank you very much for those comments. Do any members of County Council have any comments or questions they would like to share at this time? I'm going to go first to Councillor Dietrich, please.
Just a comment under planning review. I may be reading this wrong. It says application is consistent with, and then it conforms to Huron County OP and South Huron OP on page 9 of 12.
Good catch.
Minor switch municipalities.
Craig, any clarification on that, please?
I can. I did recently switch municipalities from South Huron to Central Huron. I've made that mistake several times over the last few months, both in writing and verbally. I'm getting a little bit better, but I still catch myself at times, and others also catch me. So I apologize for that.
And I apologize. I didn't mean to pick on you, but I didn't know whether it made proper sense to have it correct. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your catch on that. And thank you very much, Craig, for your admission. Any further questions or comments from any members of council? And seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder that Huron County Council approves the recommendation of Craig Metzger on consent file C-102-2022 be approved with conditions. Councillor Finch and Anderson, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Craig, do you have a recommendation to us on the effect of public and agency comments in this decision, please?
Yes, I do. Once I got to the correct slide, it would be 5A for the effective public comments. And then for the effective agency comments, it would be 3B. So 5A and 3B.
Thank you very much. So it has been recommended that the effective public and agency comments be 5A and 3B, and that is moved by Councillor Noel, seconded by Councillor P. Heffer. All in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thanks very much, Craig, for this. Under 9.3, the Bill 185, Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act. It is a privilege to welcome Denise Van Amersfoort to present virtually to us this morning on this topic. Welcome, Denise.
Good morning, Warden and members of County Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity this morning. I do understand that this report has been received at many of the local tables earlier this week, so I will be brief in my comments. Important to bring to you the revised provincial planning statement. We have been anticipating this update for approximately 1 year. It is paired with Bill 185, the Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act, for which there is no opportunity to give comments. So Bill 185 is moving through the Legislative Assembly. I understand it's going before Standing Committee next week, following which we anticipate second reading. But there is the opportunity to give comments on the provincial planning statement, the revised draft. So as County Council did approximately 1 year ago, we felt it was appropriate to bring forward an opportunity to provide additional comments addressing which aspects of the draft do address the concerns of County Council and which we'd still like to make additional comments. Overall, the message to County Council is that we are quite pleased with the changes made. So first and foremost, the removal of the proposed 3-lot policy in the agricultural areas was one of the chief concerns from not only Huron County Council, but I would say rural municipalities across Southwestern Ontario. So very pleased to see that. We do see some changes in terms of addressing or directing that additional residential units will be permitted in prime agricultural areas. As many will know, at our local tables, we have already made this change through what we termed Huron County's Housing Friendly Review. So in most municipalities across Huron, 2 additional residential units are already permitted in the AG1 zones. AG4 zones, we actually permitted one additional residential unit. There was one municipality, Morris Turnberry, chose not to permit any in the AG4 zone, so we will need to go back and make shifts. What I can say is that in consulting with landowners from across the county, there wasn't a particularly strong interest in having two additional residential units on an AG4. These tend to be the smaller parcels, you know, sort of under 4 acres. So in most cases, people were only seeking to have one, but the provincial policy, if approved, as written, it would direct that up to 2 are permitted. So we will need to make some small changes there. Overall, the other changes in agriculture were clear. We do seek, we'll continue to look for additional direction about energy projects in the county that utilize prime agricultural land. Minor changes to both the aggregate and natural environment were of no concern to the county. Some additional direction for water was not of concern. I will say in terms of urban, there are some shifts in terms of criteria for settlement area boundary expansions, and these pair with some changes under Bill 185, wherein currently, since 2006, if there was a private application for the expansion of a settlement area, if it was not approved by a local council and county council, that decision was not able to be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Bill 185 does suggest that that prohibition would be removed. So what this means is that county council could anticipate we would see potentially some more applications for settlement area expansions on an application basis. Typically in Huron, we have looked at our settlement areas at the time of a 5-year review, but it is possible we will see some more applications as a result of these changes. Other very minor changes from PPS that Huron is supportive of, encouraging early consultation and meaningful consultation with our Indigenous nations. And again, minor changes to things that would help to streamline new housing approvals, many of which, as I said, are already done because of the work that Huron did through the Housing Friendly Lens. So we're very pleased to see that the work that we've done in Huron is strongly supported by the revised provincial planning statement. In moving on to Bill 185, key changes there is the change to appeal rights. So they are proposing that in addition, there's been the removal of third-party appeals for things like plans of subdivision, consents, minor variances. This would also seek to extend to official plan amendments and zoning bylaw amendments. So what that means is that if there was an application that was proposed, let's say it was a municipality did a 5-year review of an official plan and there was some changes, a mapping change on a private property, the owner of that property would not have the right of appeal. So it's a fairly significant change. And it does sort of follow in line with some of the other changes that we have seen in previous bills. Otherwise, there are some minor changes in terms of update to notice requirements. We are pleased to see the removal of the fee refunds that was proposed under Bill 109. We did not feel that that policy was going to yield the desired effect, so we're happy to see that. In terms of things like there's some parking standards, there's certainly some items that are not significant for Huron. But overall, I think the development changes is maybe one of the other biggest wins within Bill 185. That's under the Development Charges Act, not the Planning Act. But what it enables is that the cost of the development charge background studies can again be included as a capital charge. That was one of the chief concerns from local municipalities across Huron. So we are very pleased to see that. Overall, the changes are positive. I would say at the overall, there are some small questions that staff have, and we are recommending that County Council direct that pages 1 to 3, which are the comments in regards to the provincial planning statement, be forwarded to the province for their consideration. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation to us this morning. I'm going to go first to any questions or comments to past Warden Ginn, please.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. First, dealing with the additional residences on AG4. And I'm just wondering about MDS and how that may apply if there still is a barn on that AG4.
Thanks for the question. Denise, please.
Yeah, so if an AG4, so if a 4-acre parcel had, let's say, an old bank barn on it, that wouldn't have an impact in terms of whether or not they'd be able to place an ARU on the AG4. What this change says is that you'd be able to actually have up to 2, whether detached or attached. We could look at how that works. One thing that is really important with the ARUs is that they are required to cluster with the main dwelling. So they are required to be within that 60 meters or 200 feet of the main dwelling. And that helps us to ward off any future pressure for severance. The barn on an AG4 would not have an impact.
Okay, thanks for that. The other one is, again, with the AG4s. And if we had 2 lots and the AG4s were out of the corners so that they're right beside each other, and then we have 3 houses on each of them, possibly one across the road, when does that become a settlement area?
Thanks for that. Denise, please.
It's a good question. I think that's, again, the clustering policy. We also have some concern if we think of an AG4 only being 2 acres, the idea of that property being of a significant size or a sufficient size to be able to handle septic system and nitrates. Less of a concern in the agricultural area because they are isolated. So we're not concerned about impacting other, nearby wells as we would be in a village setting. But yes, I think that the idea here with the AG4s is to allow folks to have some additional residential units. Whether we're going to see a strong pressure for that in Huron, I think, again, based on the conversations we had with landowners, certainly an interest in one. So that idea of someone putting up maybe a detached garage and they were going to put a unit up above. I saw a lot of comments that suggested that people were interested in that. The idea of going up to 3 units, as I said, many of the landowners just indicated that's not something they would be interested in given the size of the parcels, but it is possible.
Thank you for that. Any additional comments, Past Warden Giddens, please?
No, I mean, I know it's a hypothetical situation, but we need to cover all these things off. And I just wondered how that was going to come into play.
Thank you for your astute questions. Any additional questions or comments of Denise on this? And if not, thank you very much, Denise, for presenting to us this morning. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report from Sandra Weber, Director, and Denise Van Amersfoort, the Manager of Planning, titled Bill 185, with the direction to staff to submit pages 1 to 3 of this report for posting as comments from the County of Huron. A mover and a seconder for this, please. And that is Alvin McClellan moves, Past Warden Giddens seconds. All in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you. And thank you very much again, Denise. Under number Cultural Services, 10.1 is a 2023 Cultural Services Annual Report. Privileged to welcome Beth Rumble to present to us this morning. Beth, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden, I just want to take a brief moment here to bring focus to these reports. It's a great summary of the work that was completed in Cultural Services in 2023. And particularly, I want to highlight the incredible work of the staff to move all of those initiatives forward and the projects that they're bringing forward to the public, many of which do align with Council's priorities. And lastly, just a note as library services in partnership with our lower tier municipalities that the library's annual report will be shared with them as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth. Do any members of council have any questions or comments of Beth on her report? And seeing none, thank you very much, Beth. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report by Beth Rumble as presented for information. Councillor Dietrich and Harding, all in favor of the motion. That is carried. Thanks again, Beth. And you're also here for 10.2. We have a few for you. And that is the digitization project final report. Do any members of council have any questions of Beth on this report? And seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to accept the report titled Digitization Project Final Report as presented for information. Councillor Finch and P. Heffer, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried. And finally, on 10.3, the period poverty update. Beth is again here to respond to any questions on this report that council may have. And seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive the report titled Period Poverty Update as presented for information. John Becker and Councillor Anderson, all in favor of the motion. And that again is carried. Thanks very much, Beth. 11.1 is a reappointment to AMO Board County Caucus. Our CAO is here to respond to any questions, and I would like to indicate as a member of the AMO board that our CAO is recognized in her astute ability and has been appointed to the Finance Committee and is a valuable part of the AMO board. Does anyone have any questions on this reappointment? And I would entertain a mover and a seconder that Huron County endorses Megan Wark, our CAO, to be reappointed to the County Caucus of AMO for the term 2024 to 2026. Councillor Finch and Jay Heffer. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Congratulations, CAO work. 11.2 is the strategic priorities chart, and our CAO is here to respond to any questions the County Council may have on this. Do we have any questions for our CAO? And seeing none, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to receive this report titled Strategic Priorities Chart as presented for information. Councillor Bazinet and Vanstone, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. We have a number of items of correspondence that has been circulated to us for our consideration. Is there anything that anyone would like to support? And I will go first to Councillor Harding, please.
I'd like to support 12.22, I believe. It talks about the carbon tax.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Maybe do this in a lump sum. Is there anything else that anyone would like to support under correspondence? Councillor Bazinet, please.
There's 3 on there from the town of Goderich, so I'd be remiss if I didn't support my own council's resolutions here. So 12.5, 12.6, and 12.7. I don't know if you need descriptions of those, Mr. Warden, but.
We all have them in front of us, and that would be 12.5 would be the resolution regarding Highway 413, the legislature's amendments to improve the municipal code, and also the Ontario Works and Ontario Disability financial assistance rates.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Finch, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through the warden, 12.25, exotic animals.
12.25. Okay, thank you for that. Anything additionally? Councillor McClellan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'd like to pull and support 12.1, speaks to increasing the tile drain loan for farmers, so I could do that.
Duly noted. 12.1. Anything, Councillor Anderson, please.
Just have to find it here. Thank you, Warden. 12.9, the Western Ontario Wardens for the SPEC.
Thank you very much for that. Anything additionally? And if not, it'd be appropriate to have a mover and a seconder that we support these. And that is Councillor Finch and Bazinet. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And also a motion to receive the correspondence not specifically dealt with for information. Councillor Vanstone and Dietrich, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried. Thank you. If there's any new or unfinished business, please contact the CAO so that it could be placed on a future agenda meeting. Does anyone have a notice of motion that they would like to bring forward at this time for a future meeting? Seeing none, we have a number of bylaws, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to have the 4 bylaws that are printed be introduced, given a first, second, third reading, passed and signed by the warden and the clerk. Councillor Bazinet and P. Heffer, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried. Thank you. We do not have a closed session today, and I would like to note the upcoming meetings, economic development, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Canceling that, sorry. Due to lockout form. It just happens. Sorry.
Okay. Our very proficient clerk has just indicated that that meeting is canceled for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We do have the library board on the 15th of May. And of course, it's hybrid. Council Day 2 is the 22nd. And the Council Day 1 will be the 12th day of June. And again, a hybrid meeting. So please note, economic development is canceled for tomorrow morning. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the confirmatory bylaw, please? Councillor Harding and Noel, that the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the County of Huron be introduced, be given a first, second, and third reading, be passed, signed by the warden and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation affixed thereto in accordance with Part 14 of the procedure bylaw for the County of Huron. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much to everyone for your thoughtful contribution to subjects this morning. And as much as we enjoy each other's company, is there anyone that would like to adjourn our meeting? And that would be Councillor, as surprising as it is, Councillor J. Dietrich and Jay Heffer. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thanks very much to all.